Hello, hi. I'm Sarah of Sarah Wing Intuitive Arts, and hi, how are you? I'm hopping on today. It is the beginning of August. We are heading into, August and September, and we're in the later half of 2023. So I'm coming on today for an oracle storytelling. I'm gonna do some cards and draw some charms and just kind of talk about a little bit of a reflection or reconsideration around relationships with others, with our relationship to beauty, to creativity. And I always feel like I like holding something. I like holding something to start a video. I noticed that. And this is a couple restarts in. I've been having some interesting technical difficulties. So now I started with this lovely stick and this lovely piece of amber. I think it's Sumatra amber. Had a full moon in Aquarius today. And one of the stones of Aquarius is amber. Now this is a very deep, nutty, rich colored amber that under the right light you can see the honey hues in, but I can't seem to get enough amber. And we're moving into the age of Aquarius. Maybe that's partly why. Maybe that's a stone that I'm really connecting with. But amber comes in all different colors. Sometimes amber can look like almost like a golden green. Sometimes amber can look like vibrant yellow. And then sometimes it can be this deep hue here that almost looks like my hair color. But amber reminds me of the colors of the earth and the colors of kind of primordial earth. And it's interesting because when I'm speaking about amber connected to the sign of Aquarius, Aquarius is this high intellect, this genius thinking, and it really is about innovative thinking and this out of the box level thinking. But I think it's interesting to have a stone that has this primordial essence to it, and even if I just thought of like that scene in Jurassic Park, and we think of like the mosquito trapped in the amber. It's very interesting if you're someone who likes stones or crystals. I think there's just a point when you realize that you're holding a piece of the earth, a piece of history from sometimes millions of years ago, and it's I don't know, it's pretty impossible to wrap your head around. But so I just like this idea of something that has this intelligence and breadth of longevity beyond what we can conceive, and connected to this high genius level thinking of the sign of Aquarius, in the sense that when we think of out of the box thinking and we think of this high intellect and kind of even futuristic thinking, we're still working with the earth. We're still working with certain conditions, certain human conditions, right? And the genius isn't always about the technology, the AI, the things that we built. Sometimes it's the out of the box genius thinking that works in harmony or works to unveil another layer of the genius of the millions of year old piece of earth, or the breath and technology of these bodies, the human bodies. So that just kind of downloaded. What else? It's also Lammas today, which is a pagan holiday. And we're going to talk a little bit about that. And Venus is in retrograde, and we're going to talk about that. And yeah, we're just going to talk about some lovely things as they drop in. Let me just get a card to start us off. I do it this way. Usually don't do cards this way, but let me do cards this way. Okay. So we have Share the Light. That's beautiful. So I've Share the Light, and I'm just looking at this vision, and it's already making me think about Aquarius energy again. Aquarius is an air sign, but it's the water bearer. So some people, when they see an image of Aquarius, they think, well, this is a water sign, but they are a sign that they aren't pouring the water out, they're actually holding the water. So the emotions are not spilling out, the emotions are actually being held. It's interesting here because I'm getting just this Aquarian angelic feeling here. And sharing the light to me is just about sharing your intuitive, inspired thoughts, you know. But really, and I think genius thinking, I think not just breaking out of the norm or what you know and going beyond and the next new thought for whatever, but breaking out the norm and going beyond what your thoughts are, what your imagination was holding you to. We can have some really amazing downloads and amazing insights. And it's important to know that these are things that guide our lives, but they aren't the final stepping stone, and they aren't the final just place where we're gonna land in our journey. And I think it's important to know that and not feel beholden to one fact or one truth, and be open to these new ideas, being open to, part of sharing our light is receiving. Part of sharing is receiving. You have to be open to give and receive. And right now with Venus in retrograde, part of the retrograde for Venus is reevaluating and looking at relationships we have, and looking at our relationship to people, looking at our relationship to creativity, our relationship to art, and looking at these things and asking ourselves, how authentic is this to me? How is this working for me? Venus, if we think about Venus, then there is love and there is pleasure there. So, am I having open receiving and giving relationship that's pleasurable? I'm not saying everything has to be balanced. I think that, some relationships we are the ones that are going to give a lot more than others. But how does this balance in different ways? And how pleasurable is it for us? If we have any kind of abuse in that relationship, that's not going to be a pleasurable or balanced relationship. And sometimes, every relationship is different, all kinds of relationships. And sometimes where we need balance is, especially if we're giving a lot, is to have that solitude or have that downtime for ourselves in our lives to replenish. If you're an intuitive, sensitive soul, we need that. It's so important to us. to have that nourishing downtime. That's something we really need to make time and give to ourselves. That's something that, other people can't give us solitude. Other people can't give us our heart wisdom and intelligence. We have to provide that for ourselves. To me, being in nature is important. And I recall this deeply every time I get in nature. Um, beauty, whatever beauty means to you. I know beauty to me is highly important. Being creative, meaning being communicative, is important to me, and it's so important for my well-being. Let's get another card. So yeah, this Venus in retrograde. Whoo! All right, perfect. Look at this. I feel like this is a lot of Aquarian energy coming through. So expand your mind. And what I'm going to say about this is, okay, so we could look at this is about expanding your mind. I'm going to go back to reevaluating. Today is August 1st, and it's Lammas, and if I'm pronouncing that incorrect, it is a pagan holiday, Lammas. And part of this is gathering. So we're gathering. The Lammas has a lot to do with the harvest and people coming together, and more hands mean less work. It was coming together for a harvest or a celebration is an excuse to see people, spend time, and it lets you reflect. Lets you reflect on what's working. Just you ever catch up, you ever get together and work on a project, like something where you're really putting your hands on something, or you're getting together people you haven't seen in a long time, and you find yourself just naturally reflecting, and your mind is kind of starting to sort out what's working and what's not. You didn't even mean to do it, but you're kind of starting to realize and reflect, just being in the presence of a space or people you haven't seen in a while, of what's really working for you and what really isn't working for you. And sometimes we just see that through example of, maybe there's people you gather with not often, but there's a reason. So you've already had these experiences of this relationship needed boundaries or space, and it wasn't working for me. And maybe you can see, wow, I'm really glad I did that. And where else in my relationships right now can I look and maybe put more space or distance and see if that's what I need? You know, um, reflecting, if we're planting something and we have this outward visual of something growing, it's really, it can be pretty easy to see, is this working, is this not working, or how do I have this, how can I make this grow in a way where the soil is more nourished, where the produce is more abundant. But if we take those ideas and apply them to our relationship to creativity, how is it? What do we think of as being creative? Things to reevaluate in this Venus retrograde period. So, say your sense of creativity comes from cooking. So, how is your relationship with, how often are you cooking? What do you find pleasurable about cooking? Um, and then that could involve relationship dynamics too. So, part of Venus, this Lammas, part of the celebration of Lammas is eating, is cooking food, is preparing food and sharing food. Part of the pleasure of being alive is eating. This is Venus, is eating. And how do we get pleasure from food? When are things pleasurable? Is it when we're cooking? Is it based on an atmosphere of other people? If those people are gone, kind of reevaluating how do I, making those connections. If a dynamic is changed, if you're used to kind of a certain group of people or situation when you're eating, and you feel like you just don't care what you eat anymore, or there really isn't the joy or the pleasure there, this is a good time to reevaluate that. And, you know, people will come in and out of your life, different times, different reasons, but the pleasure of something, especially food, is huge. If you don't eat food, you will die. It's that important. So looking at, finding the pleasure and the joy of preparing food, or what types of food really, what do you really take pleasure in? Is it like the salty sweet things? Um, I've just, the way I experience astrology, I lately found myself picking up some of these, and I ate them all today. It's delicious, delicious chocolate and cacao powdered covered cherries, and just this extra pleasurable sweetness, this lovely treat. I cook most of my food. I enjoy that. But I know that if I don't try other foods every once in a while, some of that pleasure and joy goes away. Or if I get stuck in a rut of what I'm cooking, some of that pleasure and joy goes away. Um, and I don't require sharing meals with people all the time, but it's always, a lovely, lovely, special little time when I get to share it with others. Alrighty. Ooh, okay. So I just drew another card. Let's find your freedom. So I just see sun everywhere. Sun, 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 sun. And so in part, I'm going to take this as a reflection on communication. Okay. So think of the sun as another aspect we could look at relationships through. How do we celebrate our life? Who do we celebrate our life with? Are there any occasions upcoming that we're excited about? Are there upcoming occasions that maybe we're not excited about? And, it's a time where, when we're thinking about creativity is connecting. It's communication. Yeah. But I'm kind of pressing on all of this because kind of seeing this here, the sun represents Leo, and we are in Leo season. Yes, yeah. And we are in the Lionsgate portal. What does that mean? I don't know. I have to look it up again. And I'm sure I'll look in my chart. But this is making me think of just an open channel. So we have kind of, again, this very expansive sun energy, this bright, powerful Leo energy, this communicator, leader energy, and kind of where are you being led right now? I think it's really beautiful to see that there's this clear path here. But I think more importantly, the question is, what is this here? What is this channel that's opening up? What is being opened up to you? And are you going to kind of stay on this path you've been on? That's fine. Or are you going to have this more expanded thinking, okay? And reflect and kind of have this moment of liftoff and try out this new channel. It may sound kind of, everybody's going to be different. But I just think there's such a big opportunity, especially when Venus goes retrograde to look at our views on our reflect on our relationships with creativity and art and beauty and our relationships, and invest some time in this reflection in ourselves. It's there are times when we can really get stuck in this idea of pleasure or seeking or just being open to receiving these things that are just like imagine that every day I was like, I need these precious little treats. I need these delicious treats every day. And then one day every store is out of it. And somebody in the store deigns to suggest that, I don't know, eat a kumquat. And it's just, we have kumquats and or star fruit, because I can't picture a kumquat. And imagine that I was insulted by this. Imagine that I just felt I was just complaining and I couldn't get over it. And I can't imagine going to the store. I've been there so many times and they deign to not only not carry what I want, but somebody comes up to me and says, eat a star fruit? I mean, what the hell? It's like, what's the point of eating, like, or even trying to eat anything delicious, and the world's just against me, and da da da. And it might sound silly, but these kind of reactions, I mean, they can come on really quickly. We can tie sense memories, and I could have a memory tied to this of a loved one or an experience where I felt highly valued or very loved, and to have that experience challenged, I could suddenly feel very attacked, and how dare they? And even that kind of something, to challenge that idea, when we get in this mode where we feel like we have to be defensive, because the universe has not orchestrated itself to provide us exactly what we're looking for under the conditions and timing. I understand it's disappointing and that it can be frustrating, but it's like I almost want to say it's not all about you. But the joke is, it absolutely is all about you. And part of the reason why we can't always just remain tethered to one thing, one experience, one notion of ourselves, one sense of how we're loved versus anything else means we're not loved or accepted, is because we have to expand and we have to grow. Our soul wants that. It longs for it. And, when we kind of have the temper tantrum over these seemingly little, seemingly big things, this is usually just something that's puffing up our ego, that gives us anxiety, that makes us doubt ourselves, if we can't fill our plate with the things that bring us this pleasurable taste or memory or whatever it is, and we kind of have a little ego fit, we can doubt ourselves. We can doubt our worth. We can doubt our sense of self. We can doubt, and it's so quick, it happens so quickly. And yeah, so it's a time to really look at these things that are falling short or falling away right now and going, how much am I going to fight and claw to staple back together something as simple as like something delicious that we want to eat in that all the time or whatever it might be. Gonna draw a few charms. So right now it's just a time it'd be really good to find ways to speak with authenticity for yourself through yourself. Here's a lovely little rose quartz and a heart. So this really is like speaking, listening to your heart's wisdom. There's nothing wrong with there's nothing wrong with our minds. There's nothing wrong with a racing mind. There's nothing wrong with the way we think or what we're thinking. But not every thought we have is reliable to take us to the next leg of our life, is not a reliable guide. Not every thought we have is our own. Not every thought we have is this deep aha and insight that drops in. Not every download we have is meant to have us leap off a cliff. Sometimes we need to challenge when we have this urgency to run and go and do something. And is this, are we feeling depressed or bored or stifled? Are we in an integration time? Are we seeking more wisdom? Or are we acting from our heart wisdom, which feels peaceful and still? And if you've ever had moments of peace or this just great awareness of just softness and peace, you know how strong and mighty that is. And you know the difference between that and a constant revolving narrative and shouting in your head, which is not usually what you need to listen to in the moment. I mean, if there's like an alligator behind you, yeah. Don't even listen to your head, just listen to the sound of an alligator. I don't know what sound they make, but run. Okay, then we have this little bunny. So, I mean, this just makes me think of fertility, and it makes me think back of Venus, and the fertility of creativity. And maybe, there are things that you're fertily creative with, that you have been pregnant in your mind for a while, and it's time to unleash them, or it's time to let these things go. Maybe you have things that have creative things that you've been working on that are kind of just drying up and need to be tilled and need to be reworked in the soil. So new thoughts about new fertile thoughts for creativity. This is nothing really matters. Love is all we need. Everything I give to you all comes back to me. So again, kind of that receptive mode about being open. So being able to give or receive is being in an open state. And being in an open state does come easier when your wisdom of your heart is allowed to speak, when you're allowed to be soft and be quiet at times. I'm not somebody who has ever done like long silent meditations or retreats or anything like that, but I am somebody who appreciates solitude different ways and different spaces. And when I gift that to myself, I definitely can listen. I can communicate better when I have some time that's more quiet and reflective where I can listen. It actually helps me to communicate better. And then we have this little bald eagle. So I'm going to say that this is kind of what you can do. I think this is saying, here's this bald eagle here, and this is the channel that's being open. I think, yeah, that could be a bald eagle. And I think this is the channel. And I think this is the opportunity right now. And let's get one more card to kind of see if we pay attention, if we reflect on relationships, art, beauty, whatever's surrounding us, whatever we're feeding ourselves, and really look, are we being triggered by something? Is it time to kind of test that theory of, do we have to be this one way with this one person, with this one type of self-expression, with this one type of food, this one type of creativity forever? Of course not. Is there a way to expand on what brought you joy or is bringing you joy? Or is it time to reevaluate and take this a little further? Wow. Beautiful. Okay, so we got one step at a time. And I think that is just gorgeous. And I think this is like the perfect ending to this story where, listen, it's a choice. You are completely free to decide here. Now, here she's starting at the sun, and there's that portal in the sky, and she keeps walking one step at a time down the path. It's nighttime, and this portal in the sky now becomes her guiding North Star. And I think that's just absolutely beautiful. So it's just encouragement to, take silly, stupid, small steps. Try one thing at a time. Don't feel like if the idea of a channel or a portal, like, oh, I got to take flight into that. Well, if this feels a little too overwhelming, we can think of it this way. Okay. So whatever kind of speaks to you, especially if you're somebody who is a sun worshiper or a moon worshiper, either way, I think the path is the same. It may look very different, but it's the same idea that it's one step at a time, okay? You're finding your freedom, and along the path too, it's going to look different. Sometimes it's going to look like this bright opening in the sky, and sometimes it is going to look like that guiding light. And I almost feel like this is the path you start on, and once you kind of listen and take in the intelligence and the wisdom of the natural world around you, or this more solitude or quiet around you, then it's just one step at a time. And I think of this as more of this inner wisdom, this inner knowledge, that heart wisdom, or the sense of divine connection and divine worth. Interesting day, interesting days. So I wish everybody some good reflective decisiveness, being discerning, and trusting your heart wisdom. And when you have anxieties and fears rearing up, giving yourself a moment to pause and reevaluate if the food you're eating, the people you're around, the creativity you're addressing, adding to the art and beauty you're creating, if these things bring you fear or anxiety, taking that time to reflect and turn inward and ask yourself, look at yourself, what is the truth of the situation? Is this something where, in terms of even we think Venus and love, so it could even be, are you making up, are you breaking up to bring love into it? But are you making up, are you breaking up with all different kinds of cycling habits or patterns? You grip anything too much, most things where you squeeze and hang on very tightly don't turn into diamonds. A lot of things get crumpled or injured. And like everything, there are times in our life when we just need time for reflection, time for erosion, to allow erosion so renewal can come in. Those are just some thoughts. I'm wishing all of you ingenious thinking and allowing your mind to be expansive and open and not locked down and secured like a master bank vault that to free yourself from. It's almost like you have to like hire somebody to like break in with one of those things that you put against the lock in one of those movies. Yeah, it's late. I should go to bed. Until next time, lots of love. Nourish yourself, love yourself, remove yourself from any abuse, any harmful situation, as hard as it can or may be. Allow yourself the possibility to live healthier. You deserve it. Until next time.